everyone! So this video was supposed to be Mabon themed, however I had a few family things going on lately and I hadn't had the time to finish it before we got into October. I hadn't crocheted in years before I made this either, so I had to refresh my memory before writing this pattern. I'm pretty sure I'm still doing something wrong, but I hope you find it useful anyway. This is the yarn I'm using for this project. It's just a simple worsted weight cotton. The brand I used is the old standby Lily Sugar and Cream in Soft Ecru. It's this brown label shown another colorway in that picture. I also used a size H crochet hook or a 5mm crochet hook, and you'll need a tapestry needle in order to weave in the ends of the yarn as well as a pair of scissors to cut it. And alright, let's get started. So to start, we're going to make a magic ring. I'm going to put the yarn twice over my middle finger as so, and then insert the crochet hook under, pull up a loop, and then I'm just going to get that off of my finger. And then I'm going to pull yarn over and pull another loop through the one that I just made. So essentially you're just going to have like 2 loops of yarn with another loop pulled up through it, and then you're going to single crochet into this ring that you made. So I like to tighten it up as much as I can before I start so that I don't have to shift it around so much after I'm done. And I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet 6 stitches into this initial ring that I made. And again, this is called a magic ring. So let me go ahead and just go through this row. And then when you're done with that, give the tail a pull so that it's nice and tight in the middle, just like that. And then what we're going to do is, so we've reached the end, and I'm going to insert my crochet hook under that very first stitch and just do a slip stitch, which means just pull up a loop and make sure to draw it all the way through the stitch that was already on the crochet hook. And that way you have just 6 stitches and you don't accidentally make a 7th one, which would kind of throw off your base circle. So now I'm going to chain 2 stitches, so that's 1 and 2. And then what we're going to do here, this circle is going to be called, it's a half double crochet. I want to say they call it something else in Europe, but what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull the loop all the way through all 3 loops that are on the crochet hook. We're going to do that again in the same stitch. So what we have here is we're basically just doing a half double crochet, 2 half double crochet in each single stitch that you initially made, so you'll end up with 12 stitches by the end of this level. And what that's going to do is that's just going to create a bigger circle around the smaller circle that you initially made, so that it doesn't turn into a cup shape but rather keeps its nice circly shape. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull a slip stitch through when we get to the end of that row so that we keep 12 stitches. And you can see the middle is kind of like shifting open as we're going. I'm just counting out 12 stitches here. And whenever you feel like it, you can just give that tail string a pull so that it closes up, or you can do it at the end. It's really your call. And for the 3rd level, I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to do another half double crochet. So yarn over, pull up a loop, pull your other loop through all 3, and then I'm going to continue this way around. It's the same thing, so 2 half double crochets in each stitch in that row, so that again we're increasing by double. So now we have 24 stitches. I'm going to do a slip stitch another time, and that would complete our third level of this circle. And we're just going to get a little fancier, so we're going to do chain 2, and now we're going to do the double crochet, which is really similar to the half double crochet. It's just a yarn over, you pull up a loop, and then instead of pulling through all 3, you're just going to pull through 2, yarn over, and pull that loop through 2. And instead of doing 2 stitches in each stitch, we're going to do 2 and then 1 in the next stitch, and then we're going to do 2 double crochet in the stitch after that. So you see me here pulling up loops. Yep, and then yarn over. So this is 2 double crochet in 1 stitch, as you can see. And then after completing that row, I like to cram as many of the stitches in each row as possible, so it's a little bit denser. I had seen patterns with more double crochet, but they're a little bit too loose for my preference for use as a face scrubby or even as a coaster. The liquid kind of slips through the holes. So we're just going to do a slip stitch like we do to end each row. And you could stop here and you just would have a nice little circle, like a palm-sized circle. You can use it as a coaster or a face scrubby to take off your makeup or wash your face or what have you. Kind of whatever you want with that. But I thought it looked a little plain, and I really like a lacier looking coaster face scrubby thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a picot edging. So I'm going to chain 3 and then pull up kind of a slip stitch, inserting in the first stitch that I chained. So let me show that again. So you pull a loop through, and then you single crochet. So you skip a stitch, you single crochet, you chain 3, you insert your hook through the first chain stitch, and then you pull that loop all the way through. You then skip the next stitch. So as you can see, there's the one that I have, that's the one that I'm skipping, and this is the one that I'm single crocheting into. So essentially what you're doing is you're making these little picot edging bumps with your chain. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then again, I'm going to insert my hook in this first stitch, this first chain stitch here. I'm going to slip stitch it so that that extra stitch creates a tiny little bump. I'm going to skip that middle and then crochet, single crochet to kind of anchor it down into the that second stitch away from the one that I was working on. So basically it's just going to be chain 3, insert your hook into the first chain stitch, pull a loop through for a slip stitch, skip the stitch, insert your hook into the next one, and do a single crochet. And I'm not very good at keeping my hands in the frame, as you can see, so I kind of dropped the ball here, so you'll just have to trust me. That's what I did for this entire round. And so you can see it's nice and lacy on the edges. I think it looks a lot nicer. And then all I'm going to do to finish it is just keep your last loop on the hook, and then take your scissors and just chop off the working yarn end. And then you're going to use your crochet hook to just pull one last slip stitch through. It kind of makes a little knot, and you just pull on the string to tighten it like I'm doing here. And then I'm going to show you weaving in the ends. So now we've just got this nice little coaster slash face scrubby, whatever you want to do with it. And we're going to weave in the ends. So I'm going to take my tapestry needle, if my camera will ever grab focus on this little guy, yep. And it's just a needle with like a bigger eye so you can put yarn through it more easily. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. You're essentially just kind of sewing in the ends of the yarn into the piece so that the tail doesn't slip out and get all frayed and stuff like that. If you want, you could also make like if you have a hook in your shower, or if you want to make the tail longer so that you can make a loop and then tie that in a knot and then weave in the little end. You can hang it on like your tub spout or whatever hook you have in your shower or something like that. I don't prefer to do that, and I'm going to use some of these as coasters, so I didn't want to have that loop hanging off of it. But essentially I just like to try to insert my needle behind as many stitches as I can to just kind of pull that tail in and really secure it and just hide it behind the other stitches. I like to kind of like weave it down through the current row and then go to a row that just has a lot of loops so that I can kind of pull it through the middle of the loops and hide it that way. And then here I'm just tying a little knot around one of the half double crochet stitches and then pulling the tail through taut on the other side. I'm really sorry about it dropping out of frame so much, so that I can hide the tail, and it's really hard to pull it out. I get really paranoid about the tails of like my knit and crochet projects coming out. I don't know why, because it's really never happened before, but I don't know. I just don't feel like weaving them in again because I kind of hate weaving in ends as it is. So you just snip off the excess and it looks nice and clean. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull the middle tail to make sure that it's nice and taut in the center. And then again, I'm just going to hide the tail end behind as many stitches as possible. It's a lot easier with the middle part because you can just put it under these little single crochets and it really grabs onto it and holds it really well, and it kind of becomes part of the initial magic ring that you did. And I love knitting and crochet as a form of mindfulness because I think that it's just such a nice activity. You can do something with your hands and you can really focus on just the task that you're doing. You get a nice finished product at the end that you can use or you can gift to somebody. And for me, it's just a really constructive way to celebrate kind of the natural fibers that are available to us, and really connecting with the animal or the plant that made these fibers possible. So that's kind of why it was going to be Mabon themed, but obviously you can, do this project at any time. But I would really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. I have more projects coming up, and more about witchcraft and witchiness and just fun fall things to do. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!